You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
Do you need a car? Been shopping only to be turned down because of bad credit, low credit, no credit, bankruptcy, or divorce? Guess what? Today's your lucky day, because now you can buy a car, truck, or SUV, just about any vehicle. It's true. Bad credit doesn't matter. No credit doesn't matter. Bankruptcy or divorce, it just doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, your job is your ticket to your new vehicle. We're Auto Credit Express, and we've helped thousands of people just like you. Antonio H. told us, great company, got me connected, and the day I went in, I drove off in the car I wanted. 100% worth your time. Need a car? Get started now and drive off as early as today. Just text FINANCE, FINANCE, to 357-911 right now to get started. That's FINANCE, FINANCE, to 357-911. Auto financing the easy way. Text FINANCE to 357-911.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark. It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. Now, here's Grouchy.
Welcome in, everybody. It is great to be back with you Wednesday night, KLRN Radio, your home of conservative talk. You're going to want to stay all night. Right after this show, we've got Polita Bunny and Orty Packard with FUBAR, and then America Off the Rails with Rowdy Rick. Tonight, I have two super fantastic guests with me, and we're going to waste no time in bringing them in. First off, we have the very lovely and talented Sarah Lee. Welcome, Sarah.
Hey, y'all.
And we also have her co-host and movie mogul. You remember him from Halloween Night, folks. The lovely and talented Brad Slager.
Thank you so much for having me. Actually, for having me back.
Well, you know, honestly, Brad, the second hour of Halloween Night, I kind of felt like you were almost mailing it in, like we zeroed you out or something. And I really, it was great to have you Halloween Night. And it's good to have you back tonight too.
Well, it was just a bit of wisdom on your part, if that were the case.
All right, guys. So, you know what? Let's kick the thing off here. You both are writers for Red State.
Yes.
We are.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, and I don't know all of your credentials behind you, so please, Sarah, go ahead and give us a little bit of background on you and what you do and why you do it.
Oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting that question. I am originally from Atlanta, so you'll hear the accent, I'm sure.
No.
Most people are like, are you speaking English? So I moved up here after I finished a degree in public administration, and I started working in D.C. I'm in Washington, D.C., and I started working in, public relations and communications for all kinds of different organizations, different policy areas. Now I freelance at Red State. I do some freelancing at Town Hall, and I work primarily on healthcare policy for a libertarian think tank.
Excellent. And Brad?
I watch movies.
and eat pancakes.
I don't. She's just got this, fantastic listening resume all the time, and I'm just, But I mean, I've been writing about film for quite a few years. I don't do the conventional movie review thing any longer. Really, I only did that briefly at the start of things when I was working at a couple websites that covered independent film, but I started to get into more of the business side of things and started to also tire of the very hyper liberal side of entertainment journalism. So I started to kind of drift over more into conservative outlets, and then from there kind of branched off. So I do now both film coverage and some social political work as well. I'm at Red State primarily for national stuff. I also write for a site called Sunshine State News, where I cover the politics in Florida. which is you can imagine there's some stuff going on occasionally in our area.
Yeah,
and I also do some commentary work on occasion at the Federalist. I also contribute some movie content for Christian Toto at his website, Hollywood in Toto. I primarily do what I call DVD autopsies, where I can just get to rip into really bad movies and kind of embarrass his website, but he still encourages it, so I keep doing it.
Well,
that sounds like a resume to me, Brad.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, for a guy that claims he doesn't have a resume, not too shabby, not too shabby. So, Brad, I'm gonna just blurt something out here, and because I know you said you were into the cheesy and bad B-list movie type things, surely, because we're close enough in age, you remember Joe Bob's Drive-In Theater.
Oh, hell yeah. Joe Bob's a hero, isn't he? Yeah. He's actually now, you can find him over at it's a movie portal, or might be an app you can get on like smart TVs and stuff, but it's a channel called Shudder. And about a month or two ago, he did a marathon, like a 24-hour thing on their site, and I think you can still access it there. So if you want some fresh Joe Bob,
I got to go. Yeah. Not right now, but yeah, I got to go.
I was going to say, I thought we were going to cover for you. Okay.
Well, no, you might have to do that. And that was going to be my next thing here is living down on the Gulf Coast, at the end of the road, literally, if you turn left out of my house, you'll drive into the water. I have the crappiest internet service in the whole entire world.
Negative.
Choice. No, Rick, at least yours stays up unless the drunk tractor driver hits the pole.
No, mine only stays up when I give the hamsters Viagra.
Well, there you go.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, because the network operations center for my provider is over in Bay County, which was completely decimated by the hurricane, they're slowly but surely getting their act back together over there, and my service has been up and down. So if I drop, Rick knows to jump in and float while he reconnects with me. So guys, don't bail on me. I will be back.
Got it.
Well, Sarah and I do have a propensity for content, so I think we could fill in pretty nicely.
I know you guys can.
Yeah, we'll just make fun of you while you're gone, and then when you come back, we'll be like, "Oh, hey, we're so glad you're back," acting like we said nothing.
I'm the opening act. What do you think the two shows after me do all night?
I don't know. After hearing Brad's radio voice, I'm about to ask him if he wants just to pretend to be me 4 nights a week, and I can just chill. Yeah.
So, all right, guys, the big breaking news of the evening, CPL himself, Michael Avenatti, apparently arrested for domestic abuse.
He's a gem. Such a gem, that guy.
He is
allegedly.
Allegedly what?
That I don't know. He's a lawyer. I just felt like we had to say that for fear of some kind of reprisal. But yeah, he was beaten on his woman today.
Yeah, I mean, the report I saw said her face was bruised and swollen.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the guy, and Sarah, I know you brought up the point a little while ago about his internal polling with the Dems for a presidential run. But, that was, first of all, let's go ahead and start with the poll. We know he's been arrested now. What was the poll, Sarah?
The poll itself, hang on, I'll tell you exactly where it came from.
Okay.
It was a poll of Democrats, and what I loved about it is that Jim Hansen put it on Twitter, and the Democrats were polled about whether or not they wanted him to run as president, and the percentage that want him to run of Democrats was 0%. And Jim Hansen put it out there on Twitter, and he was like, that seems a little high to me.
Seems a little high. Well, yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. But now, because we know that poll was done before today, obviously.
Yeah, the poll, it looks like, was from, let's see. Well, give me just, y'all talk and I'll find it.
Well, I've got an update, too, as far as his stature with the party. This came from Alex Seitzwald from NBC News. He said that Michael Avenatti was supposed to hold events with the Vermont Democrat Party on Friday and Saturday of this week. Those are now canceled.
Sure. So the poll was a Morning Consult Politico poll, and it was actually how many Democrats wanted to see him in the 2020 Democratic primary. So that's where it's from.
And 0%.
0%.
It's so fitting that he is such a zero. So now that poll has been done, as I was alluding to, and he has now obviously completed the Ellison Grayson School of Home Etiquette. Do we think that he might poll better now? I mean, it seems like Keith Ellison and Alan Grayson can beat their wives and get elected. So.
I don't know, Brad. You have thoughts on that? Because we were talking about it last night on our show, or the other night on our show, about how the Democrats have this weird thing where they champion people with like serious like character flaws.
Yeah, he seems to be in the Alec Baldwin camp, where just, for some reason we can overlook his sociopathic behavior.
Right.
I don't think Avenatti, though, is going to get a lot of traction. I mean, they're pretty upset with him following the confirmation hearings because he, people haven't been following that closely. He was putting forth some witness testimony against Kavanaugh that was so bad that now basically now the leadership is going after them for the false testimony they submitted.
Yeah. I saw the referrals. Not good. It really doesn't look good, and he's not helping them at all.
Mm-mm.
No, they just used him. They have a tendency to do that on that side. They did it with that Christine Blasey Ford. They use people to they did it with the kids at Parkland. They use people for their political agendas, and the minute they're no longer useful, it's like they never existed. They stop talking about them. I mean, it's really cynical.
It is, and just goes to show you how fickle the business really is. And of course, Sarah, you're there at the Beltway. You know better than we do, even.
Oh, I, honestly, and especially being from the South, and I know you're down there too. When I moved to D.C., that was one of the hardest things to get used to, and I'm still not totally used to it, and I hope I never get used to it, because people really are. Politics is as dirty as people say. Like, I don't want to be too ugly. I don't want to make it sound so bad that people lose faith in it. But that sort of tendency to use people, that truly does exist. And it is something that's difficult to sort of live in.
Yeah, there's nothing genteel about it, is there?
No, not at all.
Not at all. And I know that well, how do I say this? I'm not a transplant in the South, but I've been told that I'm not Southern. I've lived here all my life. Well, not here, but I've lived in the South all my life. Florida on 4 different occasions, North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Virginia. I've been around the South, but I was raised by a family of New Yorkers. So, yeah, I hear all the time, well, you don't sound like you're from Alabama.
Well, yeah, I guess Alabama, actually, that's true. You don't. Alabama's accent's even thicker than mine. And I think you sound more like a Delta person to me, which is where you live, right?
A Delta?
I'm sorry, a Bayou person down there in Louisiana.
Oh, no. I'm on the Alabama coast.
Oh, okay. So you're Gulf. You're in the Gulf.
I am on the northern Gulf Coast. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. You don't, Alabama tends to be twangier, I think, than your accent.
A lot of places, yes. It was difficult when I moved here to get used to it. And I don't know, I guess I've graduated to the second level of deciphering speech. So I can get by with most people. But anyway,
one of my jobs when I first moved here, not to keep going down this road, but
go.
A funny anecdote. I was a communications director for a nonprofit, and it worked on some pretty heavy legal minutia. And one of my colleagues, I was, the comms director, so I was in charge of talking to the press and things like that. And he took me aside, and he went to Yale. He was very smart. He's actually a nice guy, but he was really concerned that their organization was going to look stupid because of my accent.
Wow.
That is harsh.
Yeah.
That's harsh.
What do you say to that? Well, it's not my accent that you should care about. It's what comes out of my mouth.
Well, I was going to say the content. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
I hope you called him a sumbitch.
What is that great Jeff Foxworthy thing? You might be a redneck if you. Can I curse on your show?
You can say whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, my favorite Jeff Foxworthy, you might be a redneck thing is you might be a redneck if your mother doesn't remove the Marlboro from her mouth while telling the state patrolman to kiss her ass.
There you go. I like it. There are some things that are so uniquely Southern that you just... Oh, God, I love it. Okay. So anyway, where were we?
I think we were still on Avenatti, weren't we?
Oh, well, somebody's going to be, but...
Yeah.
The prison tick sheet has been released, by the way, if you guys didn't know, and apparently the trade value on Avenatti is 2 Snickers and a pack of smokes. See his cellmate for available nights.
Yeah, he's probably going to start seeing a lot more Stormy Daniels because they're going to be trading her photograph around like currency.
Oh, for sure. I think the thing that interests me the most about this guy is, he has a pugilistic kind of personality anyway. So it doesn't, it sort of follows that this would happen to him. But his, the arrogance that he carries around, even when things started going really bad for him and Stormy Daniels, he was still walking around like, I got this. Trump's going down. And I'm like, dude, you might want to take it down a notch because you're not winning.
No, he's winning now, but he's winning a different kind of race now.
I guess.
Yeah, he seems to get the impression in his head that his bravado will carry him through anything. And, we had talked about it at length when her case against Trump was first coming live. And very early on, I said, this guy's in trouble because they think they needed Trump's signature on that agreement. And it was drawn up, in fact, by Cohen, not by Trump. So Trump wasn't obligated. And she was out there, basically burning her legal bridges. And he was just storming forward. And I said, these guys are just going to hit an iceberg anytime soon. And sure enough, all the people that are donating money to her to help her with the GoFundMe, they're basically just gave their money to Trump because she has to do the payout.
Yep. There you go. And then they'll scream about how rich he is.
It's delicious.
Yeah, well. Anyway, let's leave him in the rear view for a little while, shall we?
Okay.
We got other fun stuff to talk about. Let's go to Brad's backyard.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we got the recount going on down there, Brad. Right in your backyard.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the deadline is Thursday. Tomorrow.
It doesn't matter.
It was.
It
the
has no bearing on things.
The machine's overheated, so the recount's actually stalled.
Because down here, you have to understand, everybody in the country is just shaking their head at Broward County. The election law means nothing down here at all. And I'm talking about the supervisor of elections. Her name is Brenda. She's just a gem. She is. Brenda Snipes is her full name. And she's got such a laundry list of problems and illegalities enforcing various elections down here. Why she has a job is a complete mystery to me.
Well, that's what I was wondering is, you've had Rick Scott in office for so long. And why has nothing been done with her?
My guess is that Scott, for some reason, he seems to be hesitant about pulling the trigger when it comes to not enforcement, but as far as a disciplinary kind of action. You know, I mean, I've lived just a couple of miles away from Stoneman Douglas High School where the shooting took place, and I did a number of stories covering the screw-ups and mistakes made by all the various authorities down here, including the sheriff of Broward County.
Right, Scott Israel.
And there were numerous reasons for him to be suspended as a result of this. I mean, just the incompetence that he displayed, his officers displayed. There was a number of reasons to do so, and Rick Scott never did. All he did was suggest that the DLE, Department of Law Enforcement, come down and do an investigation first, and that's pretty much as far as it's gone. And he's pretty much acted the same way towards Snipes. He's just he said he was going to send some officials down here, and this is following the August primaries. He was going to send officials down to oversee the problematic Broward County Elections Board. Well, look what a great job that did.
Yeah, I was going to say that. What did he send? I mean, because there's nothing going on.
I mean, this is, we're supposed to be a cutting edge county as far as these things go. And with the primary elections, we were the 67th county to report, did so late, out of 67 counties. And she's had a number of screw ups, delays, foul ups, and she keeps saying we have unique problems down here. Meanwhile, in your area, in the Florida Panhandle, that got just absolutely shit hammered by a hurricane, they didn't seem to have any of these problems.
No problems at all getting counted and certified and everything in a timely fashion.
But there's been incompetence with this woman recently at Sunshine State of her foul-ups. I mean, just this week they found out that she was mixing in provisional ballots that should have been tossed aside in with the counted ballots. Correct. She's already done that here. This summer, she was found guilty of destroying paper ballots from the 2016 election, which violated state law, federal law, but also there was an impending lawsuit in which those ballots were needed as evidence, and she destroyed them.
Yeah, of course.
On behalf of Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And this was, again, this summer. No action taken, no problems.
Yeah, I was going to say, now, this conviction, this is not, was that a misdemeanor or?
Well, see, given that it's election law, I'm not sure where those usually stand as far as those go. But, I mean, it's a clear violation of the law, and that's her job.
Right.
I think it's definitely a fireable offense at the very least.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just don't understand how she's still there.
Yeah, there was another case, too, where this was in 2017 when she was in court, and she actually stated on the record that she was aware that her department had counted ballots from illegal citizens and from known felons. And
encouraging.
That was allowed to stand too.
I don't understand. Like, everybody talks about, and it's something that's been confusing to me ever since the 2000 election, where Florida had some similar problems. Brad and I talked about this a lot on our show this week. What I don't get is why Republicans, it's starting to change a little bit. I think Kevin Williamson wrote a really good piece for National Review about it. But why they're so cautious about just kind of calling it what it is, which looks like election fraud and, stolen elections. They constantly say, well, maybe it's just incompetence. And I'm like, there's no way there's this much of it and it's just incompetence.
Right.
Yeah, and the pattern is always, too, that, there's always these ballots that get discovered. There are these overvotes that were lost in the system. There's always, some kind of personal snafu that took place. But every single time these new votes appear, they're always somehow Democrats.
Yes.
The discoveries always favor one party somehow.
Yeah, usually by about an 80-20 margin.
So it's a curiosity, but I mean, she's just a running joke. There was a testimony from that court case last year. Now, a third case was brought up this past August by the Florida GOP, where they were mandating that when it comes to the mail-in hand counts, that they don't get opened in private, but in front of a canvassing board. Again, election law. They had to go to court to sue her to get her to follow the law. That's how bad this woman is. And when she was in that 2017 case, the judge even said in his closing remarks that it was surprising to him that she's a member of the county canvassing board, and yet she and her lawyers displayed a remarkable lack of knowledge of what the word canvassing meant. And this is the supervisor of elections who's on the canvassing board itself. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. And if you need any further explanation why there's routine problems in my area, I pretty much just gave it to you.
And then Debbie Wasserman Schultz was on one of the cable news shows. I think it was today. It may have been yesterday, but I saw the clip today where she was saying, you know, there are no problems. We don't have any problems down here. Like, she was basically like, no, there's nothing bad going on. Did y'all see that?
Yeah, she says that, and then Palm Beach talks about having the most outdated equipment in the state, and they can only recount one race at a time. And
yeah, it was the day after the election. There was a news story where an office worker at one of the elementary schools that happened to be a polling location the day before, they found 3 cases of provisional ballots that had been left behind.
Yeah, brilliant. So chain of custody shot on that.
Yeah, and they're discovering cases of mail-in votes from one of the local post offices. There was a story about a rental agency that said they discovered some cases in the back of one of their rental cars
that were rented by Democrats.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all of these are, like you just said, the chain of evidence has already been broken, so they have to be disqualified. I can pretty much guarantee they're going to be counted.
Well, that's the whole thing. They're doing it in Georgia, too, even though Brian Kemp pretty much, he said something today where he was like, all the ballots are in. She lost. In Georgia, they're not. Stacey Abrams' camp is not having the same kind of luck. She's still trying to file suit. But, they're not having the same kind of luck with the sort of PR machine saying that, there are more ballots out there, mystery ballots. In Florida, it definitely looked like it may have worked in Arizona. I don't know the particulars about that, but it's still going on in Florida. People are still discussing this woman's incompetence / intent, instead of just finally saying, can we just put this to bed? They lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when we're going to have to take a break here in just a second, because I know Rick's getting antsy on the commercial button. But when we come back, we're going to continue this discussion, and I want to take it back up to now in your backyard, Sarah, as to what was going on today. And we'll talk about that when we get back. Okay. So, guys, sit still. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
1, 2, what you doing? I've been jumping through some hoops. Want to get my body loose. Want to tell you what to do. I've been running out of bounds like an animal struggling.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
All right, welcome back. We are here with Sarah Lee and Brad Slager, Red State writers and co-hosts of It's Marble. Help me out, guys.
Marble
Halls and Silver Screens.
Yep.
I kept wanting to say marble screens, and I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. Oh, okay. So when we left off, we were still discussing Florida. Now, the other side of the coin today was like orientation day for freshmen, congressmen, and senators. And apparently Bill Nelson is a little miffed that Rick Scott was in D.C. going through orientation today. Sarah, anything being heard around your town up there on this?
I actually, you asked me if I was aware of it, and I am, because I did see the tweet from Senator McConnell, Leader McConnell's,
right.
Senate Majority Leader McConnell, where he's got himself and several of the other incoming, Republican senators, and Scott's in the picture. So, yes, I actually was aware of it. Nelson apparently went to a similar presser with Schumer, and was out there saying, Rick Scott, because there's a recount. That's right, isn't it, Brad? There's going to be a recount in Florida because state law demands it.
Yes.
Right. They have, well, actually, we're show you how much of a mess we are. We have 6 different offices going through recounts right here. But our election law is if the returns are less than 0.5 percentage point, there's a mandatory machine count. And if it's less than 0.25%, then it's a manual recount that's required.
Okay.
And they're in manual phase.
Okay, so they're doing a recount. So both of these guys show up. Essentially, Nelson, because he's the sitting senator, and Scott as an incoming, freshman Republican senator. And Nelson at his presser with Schumer was like, he needs to recuse himself. Scott needs to recuse himself. There's a very good chance I'm going to win. He can't oversee the certification of the recount, da-da-da-da-da. And Scott's basically like, yeah, I'm going to recuse myself. No worries. I mean, they did the same thing in Georgia. Stacey Abrams was saying the same thing about Brian Kemp because he was Secretary of State. But what they fail to report, and I think it's intentional because they don't really want the public to kind of really know what goes on. Kemp as Secretary of State, the ballots are counted at a local level. So
Correct.
the only role he plays as Secretary of State is in the certification process. Well, he recused himself so that he would not oversee the certification. It's exactly the same thing. That fails to get, communicated for the most part by Nelson and Abrams.
Right.
People think these guys are like haunting election places and like, pulling ballots out of boxes or something. It's ridiculous.
Pulling ballots out of boxes, that's the Democrats' trick, right?
Right. Well, I don't know. I'm just saying they have this idea, or they try to sell this idea that these guys somehow are, have this influence on the actual ballots being counted, and they don't, except in the certification process. And they've both said, Kemp has already recused himself, and Scott has said he will. So, Well,
Kemp's even gone beyond recusal, hasn't he? Gone ahead and resigned his position as Secretary of State? Yeah.
Yeah, he has. And he's basically like, I'm resigning. I mean, Kemp's a good old Georgia boy, and he had some problems as a candidate. So I was not very impressed with some of his campaign ads. I thought they were a little bit, they were trying to stir a pot that it was a little unsavory to me. However, he plays a little bit of hardball. Like, he resigned because he was like, I won. Of course I'm going to resign from the position. I won.
Yeah.
Well, that's also some of the dereliction of the media here, too, because the governor has no influence whatsoever on the elections in Florida by law. So for Nelson to say that Rick Scott has to recuse himself, there's nothing for him to recuse. He's not involved.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's he recusing? I mean,
he's got no sway over what's happening. And it's similar fashion. Like I just said, that the law is mandating these recounts take place. I think it was on Thursday or Friday, when Nelson goes to the press and demanded a recount, and everybody's reporting this. Oh, and Bill Nelson is calling for a recount. He doesn't have any influence, for one, and two, the recount's already happening because of the numbers,
right?
By law. But the press just runs with this like Bill Nelson had some kind of pull and made the demand, and they're following it. It's ridiculous.
It's slightly different in Georgia because we do not. I think a recount occurs at a 1%, less than 1%, and Kemp was above that, and he's always been above that. So it's even stupider in Georgia because she's saying that there are mystery ballots out there that would put her within recount range. At least in Florida, the numbers actually demand the recount. That's not even the case in Georgia.
Unreal.
Yeah.
So how is it moving forward then?
She's filed a lawsuit and said that there are provisional ballots that she knows exist. See, there's some backstory, and I won't go too far into it, but she helped register with a group that she was affiliated with a bunch of people to vote that were a lot of them were thrown out under the Georgia exact match law because there were problems with the signatures. There were problems with,
Sure.
Right. So there were some problems with these ballots, which makes them, and those become provisional ballots. So she's saying there's a bunch of these out there that Kemp tossed under this law that she knows would be for her. That's her argument. That's it.
Yeah. Well, guys, we can hammer the recount thing till we're blue in the face, but here I like to get a little deeper. And I don't know, this may be more into Sarah's ballpark. I don't know. Brad, you feel free to chime in too, but aren't state election laws just that? They're for the states to set.
Correct.
Yes, I think that's right.
So why would a federal judge have any ruling other than to say, all of a sudden out of the blue, your state set election laws are unconstitutional and you're violating, a voter's right?
Well, it's kind of a legal Hail Mary that's always getting thrown out there because the aggrieved parties will claim votes aren't being counted for one reason or another. I mean, we saw that in the 2000 election with Bush and Gore, where that went all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Oh, yeah.
When everybody says, the Supreme Court picked Bush. No, what the Supreme Court said was you really don't have any grounds in state law covers. And the state law said there is a specific deadline, and if the recounts aren't met by that deadline, then the last count is the official vote tally. Understand now, we had probably 12 or so official counts and another 12 or so by outside parties in Florida that year.
Right.
All of them, every single one of them, not one recount came back and said Gore won.
Well, and this is why the push that everyone's been seeing since Donald Trump's election about federal judges and the judges and getting judges passed through and on the bench, that's why, this is partly why.
Oh, I get it. I mean, his effect on the judiciary has already been huge, and I expect it to become even bigger now that basically with a a Democratic House, most legislative ventures are just hitting a wall now.
Right. And so they're trying to get, judges on the bench who will follow the law and not be partial to these kind of crazy schemes where, state law doesn't matter. We'll push it all the way up through the district and then to the Supreme Court. They're trying to stop that by getting rational judges on the court. So it's all ties into sort of the push to get the judiciary in place.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, this is always a tendency of the Democrats in general, is that they love to legislate from the bench.
Right.
And if they run up against laws that are contrary to their wishes, that's when they turn to the courts, and they want to get activist judges that'll say these things. So that they're just predisposed to this. And when it comes to these elections, same thing. We'll just go to the courts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I hate to leave a hot topic because we're really cooking this thing, but we do have one other thing that we really need to talk about. And we got about 10 more minutes, maybe 12 to do it. So let's shift gears and let's talk Acosta. So, and I'll give you guys my take first. I've seen pieces where people are saying he shouldn't be suspended. I'm seeing pieces that are saying he should be brought back. My take is that he has acted in a pattern of behavior that's disruptive like a child would do. And I think that a nice prolonged, not, let's say 3-4 weeks, a suspension to let him know, hey, we're not going to put up with it, and then bring him back. You don't have to sit him in the front row like he was. It's not like CNN doesn't have other reporters that are there in the White House press corps as well.
They have a reported 50 other reporters to cover the White House. Yeah.
Well, but now the lawsuit is completely baseless. There's no First Amendment violation. Obviously, he can still report news. There's no, what are they claiming, fifth for due process? What's the due process?
Well, oddly, that's the one. So the White House responded to this today. And that's the one area they conceded he may have a right to a little more process in this case. Okay. But that's the only thing they conceded. Their response was rather brilliant. They said, and I won't go too far into it, but the Justice Department said that it was brilliant. They said that Acosta is not necessary to get the news out. There was no public damage if Acosta was not in the White House reporting the news, because CNN has 50 other White House reporters, and Acosta, it was brilliant because it basically put it back on CNN like, you're just catering to this dude's ego.
Yeah. Which is true.
Right.
Well, yeah, what about the whole position that working in the White House, isn't that supposed to be a privilege?
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
It's a high honor to be there. He's acting entitled, like he belongs there.
Yes.
And his behavior, not just, in the last couple of weeks, but for the last 2 years has been obnoxious as you could possibly get. I mean, Jim Acosta is in business for himself. Let's just face it. This guy is so full of himself that if he were to have an affair, it just means that he's going out and seeing other mirrors.
Were you waiting to drop that one, Brad? I feel like
I did.
The whole show.
Jimmy Kimmel, he cut that one out of his monologue, so I picked it up.
Nice. And that goes great with the picture I saw yesterday of Acosta in France that had another Acosta photoshopped into it with him. So they were standing cheek to cheek with himself.
Oh, yeah. We pointed this on our show, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Sarah, where Red Steez was noticing that on Jim Acosta's Twitter profile, he has his header picture is himself looking to the left at another image of himself that's looking down at his avatar of himself.
So perfect.
I follow him on Instagram. And it's not quite as bad as I thought it was going to be when I followed him, but it's definitely the Jim Acosta show. It's not unusual. A lot of those talking heads are like that. A lot of reporters are like that. But it really is. You can really tell. He believes, the way the Justice Department put it, this is a quote from the response from the White House, plaintiffs have not established that the public interest is uniquely harmed by Mr. Acosta's absence. But see, Jim Acosta doesn't think that.
Right. Oh, obviously.
Right.
Obviously. And now, Brad, before earlier today when we were talking, you wanted to do a little side by side with maybe the Tucker Carlson dust up and the Acosta dust up.
Well, yeah, it was a kind of a unique reaction, I guess, from the press in general. I mean, in both cases, we saw mostly sane reactions, but because it just seems to be perfectly flipped. I mean, most of the reporters were, "How dare you cut Acosta's credentials like this?" But there's been a number of sane voices that said, yeah, he has been acting like an ass. I think Bob Woodward even came out and said Jim Acosta needs to work on being a reporter.
Right.
And this kind of thing won't happen. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing.
Accurate.
But with Tucker Carlson, though, what we saw was I'm going to say the M word, Grouchy. I hope that's okay. But there was a mob that went to his home while he was on the air.
You can't say that.
Well, I don't listen to Brian Stelter too often, so I'm going to just go ahead and fly with it.
Oh, that's good.
But they, they were terrorizing his home, and his wife and kids were there, and they had to barricade themselves at one point in time out of fear. And there were a number of reporters. Now, most of them were, of course, saying that's out of line, but there were a number, Matt Iglesias being one of them, that were saying, well, he kind of brings this on himself with his reporting and his stance and his viewpoints. Which is remarkable to see journalists saying this about journalists. I mean, granted, he's at Fox, so for a lot of these people, they think that doesn't count. But, for Iglesias to say, here's a reporter or journalist that has viewpoints and he's bringing this on himself because people disagree with him. It's like, well, guess what, Matt? People are going to disagree with you, too.
Yeah, it's always nice to have something Fox-splained to you.
It's like listening to, that annoying friend of a friend who thinks they're like super smart and they just, it's the worst. I'm just like, this is the most, I don't know. It's the worst. Reading Vox is like being lectured.
Well, yeah. But also, if I had a friend that was friends with Matt Iglesias, that would be an ex-friend. I just go away.
Vox just cracks me up. It's almost a TED Talk from somebody who hasn't been off a college campus in 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's like this super academic. It's the verbal equivalent of somebody showing you like slideshows of their vacations or something. It's just like, stop.
Yeah, these are the way things are supposed to be, but they don't really apply forethought and reactions to those concepts. It's just like, well, I read this in a book and that's the way it is.
Yeah, they're here to save us from our own ignorance.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've been rattling Iglesias's cage for a while. I understand how he thinks. Don't like it, but I understand it. And I know what he tries to do. And believe it or not, I mean, for as terrible as they are as a whole over there, he's actually good at the craft of what they're trying to do. It's not reporting, but he's good at his craft.
I would agree with that. He's a salesman. He's selling these ideas, and he doesn't have. They're not true often.
No.
So how do you sell something that how does a used car salesman convince you that the car is good that he's trying to sell you?
Right.
That takes skill.
They play on your emotions, and that's forget the facts. How do you feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the whole thing with Vox, with their Vox-splaining, and they're going to, we're going to explain the news. It's effectively an admission to them that they're giving you a narrative, but the way that they couch it and it's packaged a little bit differently than Media Matters, but it's really on the same level because they're giving you their viewpoint. Media Matters, that's a bunch of fat, sweaty guys in a basement just shooting out prolix. It's all agitprop that's coming out instantaneously. Vox sits down and comes up with a cerebral way of saying the exact same thing.
Sure. And they have their I guess their counterparts out there that make up the unholy trinity, Slate and Mother Jones.
It used to be Salon too, but I don't know what's happened to Salon in recent years. But Salon used to be one of the worst.
I think I read that they were like the next Gawker or something. I don't know.
Oh, geez. It's almost like each one is a different ring of journalistic hell.
Yeah, well, Dante's layers.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
The ones that are sort of the worst offenders, like you get the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes, who she really just doesn't know what she's talking about. I think she probably knows that she's not selling the right stuff, but she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's the ones who know, the ones who, the journalists that were saying, popular vote in the Senate, and they know better. They're the bad ones.
Yes. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. And I kept waiting for somebody to try to actually define what the popular vote in the Senate was.
Brad, you did that the other night on our show, didn't you?
Well, yeah, it's pretty much, I could sum it up this way. The popular vote regarding the Senate only counts within the state's borders.
Correct.
Beyond that, it has no bearing on the Senate. I mean, if California runs off against Rhode Island, yeah, you're going to get a little bit of an imbalance with the popular vote total there, but it doesn't work that way. It's like when they tried to come up with that garbage gerrymandering argument regarding the Senate too. I guess state borders are now evil.
Yes, they are. That's what they want to change.
It's equally ridiculous. It doesn't apply.
We have a whole talk on that. Unfortunately, though, we're back around to the top of the hour, and this stinks because I'm actually having a blast with you guys.
Thank you. Me too.
But we're going to have to wrap it up because I see that Bunny and Orty are in the chat room, and I'm sure they're going to be chomping at the bit to go here at the top of the hour. So real quickly, Sarah, tell everybody where they can find you.
They can find me, I'm mostly at Twitter, so that's at Sarah Lola, and that's spelled SARAILOLA.
Excellent. And Bradley?
Oh, primarily you'll find me and Sarah, of course, at Red State on the front page. And if you want day-to-day or even hour-to-hour updates on social and movie garbage from me, go to Twitter. I'm at Martini Shark. And once a week, we have our podcast we put out called Marble Halls and Silver Screens. I'll cover that for you, Grouchy. Our whole premise there is basically we use our dual expertise where we see where DC politics and Hollywood entertainment cross over and form our culture, and that's where the two of us dive in and commentate on a weekly basis on what's going on.
With alcohol.
Well,
with
yeah,
alcohol.
That's code.
Well,
you have to.
I thought you guys were on the straight and narrow. I just brought tea in tonight.
No, we're not.
Okay.
You're so naive, Grouchy.
Well, no, I can't do that on a weeknight anyway. I have to get up and go to work in the morning, and I'm not young like I used to be. So, but anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here. And I would absolutely love to do this again sometime when we actually maybe can have some more time.
Hey.
As it is, Yeah, we'll sign off for tonight, and we'll talk more in the future. Again, enjoyed it immensely. Thank you so much. For you folks listening, if you like the show, tell your friends. If your friends like the show, you need new ones. But they and you are welcome right here every week with me on KLRN Radio. Good night.
I hate this place. Nothing works here. The medications don't work. I've been here for 7 years.
To us.